There we are. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing today, Nate?
Good, Sean. How you doing today?
Oh, no complaints. Got
Yeah,
no complaints at all.
nice. You having a good Easter?
I did. Yep, I
Nice.
did. Nice holiday. Even though you just called me old, but that's cool.
That was
Um,
off the record, you know. Now we're on
ah,
the record, so you're bringing that to the audience now. So
that's right. That's right. That's how I am. I'm petty like that, man. I'm petty like that. We'll get into it, but everyone, welcome to MMBBA Live. I'm Sean Williams. I'm your host and the current president of the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association. So each week we bring these types of timely conversations that are focused on advocacy, which we're going to talk about today, um, leadership and the issues impacting our industry here in Maryland specifically. So with the 2026 legislative session coming to a close. That's Monday, right? The 13th, if I'm not
yep,
mistaken.
13th last day. Yep.
Yep, yep. Today's conversation is especially important for our members. And so, this morning I'm joined by Nick Framarini, who's closely involved in the MMBBA's advocacy efforts through this legislative session. So Nick is uh, 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 one of the committee heads for the MMBBA. He's on the board with us as well. So he's a co-chair of the legislative committee, and he spent a great deal of time tracking bills, working with the stakeholders, and helping represent our industry interest in Annapolis. And just wanted to take some time to introduce you this morning. Did I forget anything, Nick, that you wanted to add in there?
Uh, nope. Just proud mortgage broker. You know, I do like to represent the wholesale side for sure. So it's Maryland mortgage bankers and brokers. So the brokers out there definitely would love more participation from y'all. We definitely all represent the same interests, especially in Annapolis. Annapolis has no idea the difference between a mortgage broker and a mortgage retail lender. So, but yeah, other than that, I've been in the industry for since 2015. So I always joke, only way out this at this point, it's a body bag. So kind of in it for life. And I run a vice president of Mortgage Star, so I run the company. We're based out of Bethesda, Maryland. We've got a team of about 8 loan officers. Been in Scotsman's Guide last 5 years. So yeah, so outside of the advocacy side of things, we're just originating and trying to help as many folks as we can, with refinances and purchases. So
Yeah, we thank you for everything that you do for us. It's a lot of work. We're gonna get into that I know as well through our conversations, but it's a lot of work and a lot of advocacy that goes on behind the scenes, and so that's why it's really important. And we decided that it was super important for us to highlight that because, like you mentioned, folks at the state house, they don't know the difference between a banker or a broker. It's just really about it being a mortgage and getting folks getting a home loan. And so, Nick, before we get into some of that stuff, we I say stuff, but legislative update. We always start with a fun fact question. You ready for that
okay,
one?
hit me with it. Yeah.
All right. So, what's one fun or unexpected fact about you that most people don't know but probably should?
Um, so I guess I would say I don't know how much of a kept secret it is, so to speak, but I used to be or am an avid cook. So really enjoyed cooking as my passion, and we were able to turn that into a scratch pizza kitchen a couple years ago. So I co-own No Regrets Pizza in Bethesda, Maryland, with my business partner Richard Weiner, who also I run Mortgage Star with. But we own a scratch pizza kitchen, and we've been voted best pizza in Bethesda the last 2 years by Bethesda Magazine. So good at originating loans, and apparently I'm also somehow good at making pizza, according to the fans. So that would probably be an interesting fact that many people don't put together, that you can run a mortgage company and also run a pizza kitchen. So
Dude, get out of here. So, I definitely did not know that, and I definitely should have known that for sure because we've had plenty conversations, and maybe you told me, but I just don't think it's come up. And that's really cool. And so, how long have you? Did you say how long it's
Yeah,
been around?
we've been open since May of 24, so coming up on our 2-year anniversary here, and then we actually have a second location opening in downtown Bethesda here in the end of summer. So yeah, so I've been doing that as well. So between mortgages and pizza, advocacy somehow finds its time to be my passion. I always kind of joke, some people like fantasy football. I enjoy advocacy, so I enjoy the legislative side of things.
I see. You like a good fight.
I do, I do. I always
Yeah.
kind of wanted to be a lawyer. I was going to go to law school after college, and just like most people, I stumbled my way into the mortgage industry. I feel like that's how a lot of folks kind of become
Everyone.
mortgage loan officers, and I had some student debt to pay off, and my plan was to pay off my debt and go back to school and go to law school. And policy was one of the things I enjoyed a lot in undergrad. Made good money my first year out of college in the mortgage world, and paid off all my debt. And was like, you know what, I'm kind of good at this. I'm helping people. I like it. And my roommate at the time was in law school eating ramen noodles every night, so that kind of really showed the imbalance a little bit. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to stay in this. So yeah, so it's been something I've enjoyed politics and policy, for a long time, even before getting involved in the advocacy side.
That's awesome. And so, last thing, and we're getting into it. Happy belated birthday. I do know that, right? I got that
Yes,
right.
yes, yes. Thank you. I am the ripe age of 33, so I'm slowly climbing the ladder, trying to reach you, Sean. But I think the way with time works, you're always going to be ahead of me. I don't think I'll catch up.
Always, always, always. So, and that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I said that he said I was old. So, um, I called him a young man, and I asked him how old he was because I knew that he just celebrated a birthday. And thanks for knocking 10 years off my life. I appreciate that, Nick. You graciously told me how old I was, but good stuff. And so, like, advocacy, why is it critical to the mortgage industry, specifically in Maryland? And we have this legislative session that happens every year at the beginning of the year for 3 months. Why is it so critical?
Yeah, I mean, I think when folks think advocacy, I think there's a lot of intimidation upon like the state house, the Capitol, like these delegates and state senators and politicians. And you know, advocacy is just so important because all of us love to complain about whatever it be, whether it be taxes or you know regulations, HOA rules, or you name it, you complain about it, right? Well, the only way to fix things really from a long-term perspective is to fix it legally, legislatively, and have Congress act, right? Whether that be on the state or federal side, right? So, and housing is really a state issue. Like, they always talk about affordability is in the news all the time. There's not much the federal government can do. A lot of affordability and things of that nature when it comes to housing. Housing's a local issue. So being involved on the state side is extremely important. And to me, when I look at things that, directly impact our industry as a whole, whether it be some bills we'll talk about today, whether it be the appraisal bill we were talking about today. There's some AI regulation that was trying to get passed. There's some um, um, things around some compliance data that we would have to submit that would not be helpful from the mortgage side. Licensing fees that can go up, like that cost us money. So all of these things essentially that as a a bit as myself as a business owner, but even if you're not a business owner, if you're just a loan officer that works for a company, these are all things that impact your business financially, emotionally, it impacts your clients. And so to me, to turn a blind eye to advocacy and just not really kind of have your pulse on what's going on, you're doing a disservice to your business, you're doing a disservice to your client. And so to me, I think, yeah, people buy business insurance. This is business insurance, really. You're ensuring that essentially there isn't going to be policy change that's going to negatively impact your business on a day-to-day basis.
Um, I wrote down business insurance. We're gonna get back to that one too. What like so? Talk to us about the session. Like, what is the
Yeah.
the legislative session, just for those of us that don't know
Yeah.
what happens during that time.
Yeah, it's a great question, Sean. So the session's very compressed. So every state's going to have different sessions and times, right? So a lot of folks think about, Congress, the state house, state house and state Senate. I'm sorry, federal house and Senate down in DC, and they think, they're working all the time, right? States are different. So Maryland specifically has a session that meets annually, and it's January 11th, 12th through April 13th, right? So it's essentially the first quarter, a little bit more than that of the year, and they're meeting and in session. So that's when all the legislative work is really done. So that's when all the bills are getting submitted. That's when the lobbying is occurring. Now there's things occurring off cycle for sure in terms of getting things prepared and positioned correctly. But a lot of your main work is done in those 12, 14 weeks period of time. And so that's the session itself. During the session, bills are introduced, they're read, and that's when the work begins for us to work either with or against a delegate or state senator against something that we oppose, support, or support with amendment, which essentially means, hey, like, we love the idea, but here's some things you need to fix to make it so that doesn't hurt or impact us. And I think that's another thing that I don't think gets talked about a lot. There's a lot of obviously left versus right, and all the stuff you see in the news about, Democrats hate Republicans, Republicans hate Democrats, and all that. And honestly, there's some apples out there that are like that, but more times than not, these are folks who have full time jobs most of the time, just like us, and they're also representing their district, and they just don't know what they don't know. And so a lot of times they have a really really good idea that they think's a good idea because a constituent came to them with a problem, and their job is to fix that problem that the constituent came to them with. And so a lot of times they think they're doing something good, and that's why that support with amendments a thing that we lean on a lot, where it's like, hey, you know what, like, we support your idea, but here's what happens if you do it just like that. It's actually going to hurt the industry or hurt the consumer. You just didn't even realize it, right? So
Yeah.
here's how you can still do this, but just amend it so that it fixes this issue. And so those are kind of the things that we monitor. And so every week we get together with our lobbyist, Dennis Ramoson, who's amazing. They provide us kind of a list of bills that have been introduced every week. And every week we're going through those bills that could impact us and reading those bills to see what has a positive impact or a possible impact on the industry as a whole.
Thanks. And so you started to talk a bit about describing like our role, MMBBA's role during the legislative process. Can you go deeper on that?
Yeah. So, what our role really is that we're looking out for mortgage bankers and mortgage brokers, so the mortgage industry as a whole. Now, obviously, we kind of have a partnership and coalition around where we have conversations with the appraisal groups, with the bankers, and then the conversations as well with realtors, right? Because we're all kind of in the same industry as a whole, right? So there's some times that there's going to be some crossover that we're working all together with, but our main role as the MMBBA on the legislative side is to keep a pulse on all of the bills that are coming in, and there's thousands of bills that are submitted every session, right? And our job is to essentially look through those bills, parse through them, and say, hey, does this bill potentially have an impact on the mortgage industry, whether positive or negative, right? We're not always playing defense, right? We also want to play offense too. So if there's something that's out there that's going to be a positive to the industry, we want to support it. We want to get our weight behind it. And a lot of the other part of it too is relationship building. So we really want to build relationships with these delegates and state senators. You don't want to just go in being like, this is a terrible bill, we oppose it, and you kind of come out guns a blazing. That's not going to get you anywhere. You really want to kind of generally work with the delegate and say, hey, what's the problem that you have? Let's hear about it. And then maybe let's work together. And we've done a really good job over the years of establishing these really great relationships where what you want it to do is you want the delegate to have a problem that's related to housing or mortgage. And instead of them just going out and writing a bill, and then that's the first time we see it is in January 15th when it's submitted on the first day of reading. We've worked to have relationships with a lot of these folks where they come to us and say, hey, we've got our constituent has a problem. This is something we want to fix. Help us to write this bill. Help us to work together so that we can solve this issue. And so we've gotten really great over time of developing those relationships where we're having delegates now come to us instead of vice versa, where we're coming at them saying, hey, please change this. You know, we're working together to try to solve an issue.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a great explanation, and it's what I've seen over the years, and specifically this year as I take on the president role, just trying to understand more about the benefits of the legislative team, and the benefits of just having those relationships. And so, before I get into the next question, I almost forgot. I need to thank a few people. Obviously, thank you again, Nick, for joining us. Bay Capital Mortgage, CIC Credit, and CMG Home Loans for supporting this live stream and being a sponsor. And so we're headed into through the year, our legislative team meets and talks about bills and changes that occur. You mentioned Dennis Rasmussen earlier, who's our lobbyist, and he's been our lobbyist for some decades, and there's a good bit of time that goes into it, and I do my very best to join the Monday calls as often as possible. But it's not just a group of people getting on the phone every Monday to just kind of talk. There's some other things that go on behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
two part. Tell us what that's like, because it's not just MMBBA that you're supporting and interested in. Your Broker Action Coalition and just the broker channel, wholesale in general. But for Maryland's sake, tell us about like what goes into it, but also sessions over on on Monday, right? And
Yeah, it's a
and then so like let's talk about like I I don't know if you can tell us kind of where things stand, if there are any bills that are still active. Is it done? Like what's going to happen
yeah.
on Monday? But yeah, just
So
speak to that, please.
yeah, so I'll talk about bills in a sec. I think you make a good point though to elaborate on something earlier in terms of like, right now we're in session, right? So a lot of times people think, oh, well, out of session. So like if you're on the legislative committee, you're done for the year. Not the case, right? As you mentioned, just because they're not in session doesn't mean that everything just stops. So, what we're doing generally off session is we're working to continue those relationships with folks with delegates and state senators that are important, that are on certain committees, for example, that are going to hear our issues a lot. So, going to their fundraising events, um, meet and greets, obviously, if the delegate is in one of our districts, it's we're a true constituent, even more so, right? So I always say to everyone, the first thing, first and foremost, um, that you should know is who is your state delegate and who is your state senator, and go to one of their events. And whether you're Republican or Democrat doesn't matter, right? You should know who the person is, and you should go to a meet and greet with them. They have plenty of community events. Go, because those are the people who are influencing what happens at so many levels in your life that you don't even realize, right? You hate something that's happening, stop talking about it on social media. Send a letter to your state senator, your state delegate. Send them a phone call. These people need votes to keep their job. It's that simple. So they want to hear from constituents. I can tell you that literally, I can't think of a single bill or thing that we've done within MMBA that the issue that we were trying to solve, or the bill itself that we had either a support or negative against, a constituent was the one that brought it to the delegate or the senator. It wasn't like these guys or girls just had this crazy idea that they were just going to go do something. No, like they have someone had a problem and they're here to fix it. So a lot of times what we're doing in the rest of the year is working on those relationships and trying to make sure that we're staying in front of that. And then also a good example that'll kind of talk us a little bit about the bill that I'll talk about here today is we're working with delegates who have a problem and they want to introduce legislation next session, right? If someone has an idea right now, you can't just get it in and get it submitted and get it passed by April 13th, right? So if someone has a beautiful idea right now, they got to submit it next session. So a lot of times what we're working on in the months to come are where there are potential situations where delegates and senators have some bills they want to introduce, and they were going to consult our help. So a good example of that this year was that we had House Bill 1299, which essentially we always refer to it as the appraisal bill. Is kind of how we refer to it in the group a lot. It's what a lot of people call it. Essentially, what it was is that currently there is the reconsideration of value process that you can do through Fannie and Freddie, and VA has Tidewater and so forth. But essentially, what happened was is that Delegate Taylor had a constituent whose appraisal came in much lower than what it should. There's definitely some appraisal bias there. However, they had it appraised and it was worth more, and so essentially it stemmed from a problem where the constituent had a low appraisal and it appraised for less than they thought it should have appraised, and there was some bias that they felt was due to the race of the consumer. Okay, so a great example, real problem, real issue. Delegate Taylor wants to fix this issue, right? That's totally fair. And so they worked with us in the fall and said, "Hey, we've got this. We really want this goal to try to fix this appraisal bias, right?" So we all worked together to try to find a solution that would make sense. Unfortunately, like what can happen in politics and government is what we had all talked about and worked together to try to make a joint effort in making this thing work. The bill that was drafted by the bill drafters wasn't really necessarily exactly what we had talked about with them, and so it came back and we were like, this actually is not something that we can support. This is actually going to be very detrimental. The way the bill was drafted, it would essentially violate it would violate the appraisal regulations, and essentially would not allow the loan to be Fannie and Freddie back at that point because it would be in violation of AIR. So we did all session worked with Delegate Taylor to try to find a way to work together to make this bill work. And we went through redrafts, and unfortunately, there wasn't really necessarily a consensus that we could come up with that really kind of worked, so to speak, to what Delegate Taylor's goal was versus what we could really make work just based off of federal law. And that was the big thing, is state law would be conflicting federal, and then you kind of have that issue that lies, and it would conflict with the AIR guidelines, which it just wouldn't work. So that bill, Delegate Taylor came to the consensus knowing, hey, this isn't going to work. We're not going to push this any forward because we realize there are some issues here. Thank you so much for continuing to fight to try to make it work with us, but we saw that there's some issues here. So essentially, the bill didn't go anywhere, which was did not pass, which was good for us because it would have caused a serious issue within the community as a whole with appraisals, because it essentially wanted the appraiser could reach out to the seller to get additional comps before the appraisal was even submitted with value, which breaks AIR. You're not supposed to be able to talk about value beforehand with the agents and so forth. So it didn't go through. Big shout out to my co-chair and head chair, Richard Green. Did an amazing job on staying on top of that, Rich, and working with Dennis really hard. And he was down in Annapolis in meetings with Delegate Taylor, with Dennis, trying to work through and find a solution. And sometimes the solution is that, hey, like, it's a great idea, but the solution isn't going to work because it's going to cause too many issues. And so that's what we're here for. Whereas, if we weren't at the table and we weren't looking out for this, there's trade groups for appraisers too. I can tell you, we did a lot, we were kind of in the forefront of it before them, right? So being able to catch things and bring it to their attention and work together is important. But if there had been no one monitoring that, and that had just gone through, you're looking at a situation where there's now state law in place that appraisers have to follow that conflicts what they're allowed to do according to Fannie and Freddie. And now you have the situation of, law that the appraisers have to follow in the state, but it's conflicting what Fannie and Freddie will let them do. And now you're in the situation where these loans are in jeopardy of being able to be done. So that's why it's a good example of the whole entire cycle where it's your goal is to work with a delegate to get something fixed together. Sometimes you can't get to a point that makes sense, And sometimes you win, which we did in this case, which was great. We came out on top of being able to stop it. And I will say, we've continued the conversation with Delegate Taylor. We've said, hey, look, we understand that you have a problem here. Like, we're not just going to say, okay, great, this didn't work out for you. We're on to the next battle. We've let her know, hey, like, we remain open to try to find a solution to your specific, issue at hand that you feel exists. And so that's kind of how that ended. So that was probably the big contentious fight. There usually is one every year. There's kind of usually one bill that takes up the most of our time that we're either trying to push through or have not go through. So that was a big one. The other big one
But
that
we really wanted that one to work though. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
we
we
did.
really did. And as you mentioned earlier, just by having a team of people that actually knows what's going on, because you mentioned air a few times in regards to the appraisal independence requirements. And so, like you said this, just imagine if and no one was watching out for it, um, or you didn't have feedback from trusted advisors that's got tons of years of experience. What could have happened to the consumers that we're looking to protect ultimately, right? Because the companies that we're also protecting in our industry would have been negatively affected, and the opportunity to do housing and finance housing would have we would have ran into some roadblocks by doing that. And so, although we spent a ton of time, and I think more of the time was less about like how can we kill this thing, but like really how can we make it work, because it was a good thing, but if we let it go the way that it's been presented, and the way that they wanted to have it voted on, it would have could have been potentially catastrophic. And like you said, it was going against what the federal law was stating. So I do apologize for you for interrupting to
No,
you,
no,
but I
you're
know,
100% right. It's
yeah,
definitely we did want it to work, right? Like a lot of times, especially things that are consumer protecting, we're on the side of the consumer, like we do work with them on a hand by hand basis. And yeah, I mean, definitely something that we wanted to work out with Delegate Taylor. We really wanted it to work. The thought behind it again is good. Now, luckily there are ROV processes in place with Fannie and Freddie and VA and FHA. So there are at least tools in our toolbox to help resolve these issues, which I think is good information that should also be known to those who aren't aware of it, that are maybe not lenders listening in here, but those tools do exist. So this isn't like you're just kind of stuck if an appraisal comes back low in that case. But yeah, I think we always want to leave the door open. You never want to burn a bridge, and I think we did a really great job of working with Delegate Taylor to say, hey, like, we really want this to work, and it's not going to work in this current form. But again, doors open. How can we help you fix your problem in the future that does meet air guidelines, right? There just wasn't enough time. Again, you have 14 weeks to kind of get this all worked out. And when you're going back and forth, and you have to draft new bill language, and you have to do new submissions, and it has to get read again, it's a tough process, and that's why, again, that off session work is very important, because I wouldn't be shocked if we're meeting with Delegate Taylor again here in a few months to help her, see if there's another way to get what she wishes to accomplish. So, but yeah, the only other bill that I think that a couple other bills to highlight. One was Senate Bill 696. This is something that I testified on in Congress as well, in the state house, to talk a little bit about. Was there's a bill to essentially have a complaint database, which currently exists within the CFPB, though some way know the CFPB is not really too active in this current federal administration. But there was a complaint database that really kind of the biggest impact for it was there was heavy fines involved. It was additional compliance that we already still have to do on the federal level. But more importantly, there really wasn't a way for us to be able to kind of fight the issues that would be brought towards us. And that was a big issue on this that we had with. Luckily, it too has stalled, and it doesn't seem to be going. Doesn't seem to be going to the finish line. It was filed in the Senate, but never cross-filed in the House. So for folks who need a refreshment in government, it has to pass both House, Senate, and then signed by the governor. So It has to go through both sessions. So generally, when something's not cross-filed, it tends to signal that it's going to be at least a little more time sensitive to go through. So that was good that that one did not go through. That would have not really been any benefit to the industry as a whole. Another one's AI. So AI bills keep popping up all over the place, and obviously, there are certainly concerns to be had with AI. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't. If you're a loan officer on here and you're putting client docs in Chat GPT, and you should think twice about doing that. Um, but where it comes into our industry is that we run AUS, we run DU and LP, and guess what? That's if you read some of these AI bills, that would essentially make DU and LP not legal, which it has to be. So we always are monitoring AI, not from a standpoint of where we're totally pro full blown AI taking over. It's more so monitoring it to make sure that the way some of these bills are written, they just don't necessarily take into consideration that aspect. And a lot of bills too are written as well, where there's just already additional layers of compliance that we already meet on the federal side. So a lot of times when we're looking at things, it's just saying, hey, this is really good. We support it. Just carve us out because we already have to meet it via X, Y, and Z. So sometimes it's just to make sure we're not having duplicate regulation that would be counterintuitive and increase costs, which would in turn means higher rates for consumers, right? So that's one of the big things we always want to make sure that the folks in Annapolis realize is that anytime you raise costs for lenders running their businesses, it's going to generally mean that we have to pass those costs on to someone, right? Just like in my restaurant, if you raise the prices of food, prices don't mean prices go up to buy the pizza, right? Just because it costs more money to make it. So yeah, that's a few of the bills that we had. Like I said, I'd say as a whole, session was a big win, just because really being able to, I think, work hand in hand with a delegate on something that's very important to her, working with industry partners across the aisle, so the appraisers, the realtors, us all working as a mini coalition, so to speak, to work together towards an issue. I think it's always a great showing of kind of what this is and how it works, where you think if you just because you're one person you can get a lot done when you've got a lot of people that are working together on the same goal.
Yeah, yeah, no, and again, I can't thank you enough for all the work you do, because again, like I said, as I started to dive deep into the legislative team this year, to just really understand and peel back what it is that we do. If someone asks, or why we should be advocating for this particular group here that we have, um, it's just it's a lot, and it's impactful. It's super impactful. And so I think we've covered everything. There's one last question. I think I know how you're going to answer it, but let's try this. Let's see. So and you just touched on it largely, like, so MMBBA members, like, how can they stay engaged and support advocacy efforts, like, moving forward,
Yeah,
even if after the session. And you can also speak to some of the organizations that you're a part of, outside of the MMBBA, right? And yeah, just speak to that, like how members and
yeah.
loan officers can stay engaged.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I'll plug it right now. Donate. Okay. To do what we do, obviously myself and Sean are not being paid. We do it to help the industry, but we do have a lobbyist that we do pay. And we do have funds that go towards what are called our PAC, political action contributions. So going to those dinners and happy hours, they cost money, relatively inexpensive, generally for a ticket to those dinners. I find it inexpensive, at least comparably speaking to some other events that you see out there. Um, but the political action committee would be a great donation for us because we have to donate to these politicians. And I'm not saying money is money to play, so to speak, but it does help, right? That if you pay money to go to the dinner and you're able to meet the representative, and then when you go to the representative's office 2 months later about an issue, that they're not saying who is this person, right? Oh, that MMBBA, like, thank you for your contribution last quarter. Like, it just helps keep your name in in the back of their mind. And we're very delicate in making sure that we're balancing both sides of the aisle. So it's not like we're only donating to one politician or the other. So that would be something that I think would be donations would be huge. If you want to get actually involved, I tell everybody again, like I said earlier, go meet your state delegate and representative. They need your vote to win, so they want to hear from you. As Sean mentioned, I do things on the federal side with the Broker Action Coalition. So we represent the wholesale industry on Capitol Hill. So the other thing that I tell everybody as well, you should know who your state House representative, your federal House, U.S. House of Representatives, who your representative is there. And again, go to one of their events. Like, go and meet them. If you have a problem, they'll listen. I'm telling you, the more and more you bombard them about a problem, there's a 22-year-old staffer that's dealing with those phone calls and emails, and I can tell you what, they get really, when they get the same call and email over and over again, and especially if it's from more and more people, they're like, all right, I'm done talking. I'm gonna go reach out to X, Y, and Z now. Like, they've got my attention. So it does work, but it's very important, I think, to have relationships with those folks and know who they are. Especially if you're a business owner, 100%. If you're a business owner, those are the people that they really want to hear from. Even more, I'd say even more to some degree. But that would be the easiest things. And if you want to get involved even more, joining the Monday calls is a great way and to give you some background. When I first did it the first year, I sat on the Monday call every Monday and I didn't say a word. I just sat there and listened and took it all in. Rich Green was great, Brandon McKay, Tim, Ed Levin, just tons of great folks who had been doing it for years that I was able to sit in and just get a ton of knowledge. You learn things about the industry that you didn't know. I mean, I've been doing this for, like I said, since 2015, so 11 years. So far from, a lifetime industry vet, but we had a bill last year that came up, and Tim, Rich, everyone on the call, it was an issue. It was something that Fannie and Freddie actually allowed that they had no idea, and none of us did. So you're always learning something new. So I think it helps your business. Whether selfishly you're looking at just origination itself, like you're going to learn things that are going to help you. But more so, like I said, you're looking out for your industry as a whole. And so the thing I know I hear all the time and see is, like, when I talk to someone, they're like, oh, like, I really hate that they're doing this in Maryland, or so on the wholesale side, we have very limited access to down payment assistance, right? Something we're working on. But all time wholesale people are like, I can't believe we don't have, like, well, have you gone to Maryland? Have you talked to them and try to see what you can do? Well, I haven't done anything, so I think a lot of folks love to complain, but like, this is an opportunity to take your complaints and actually, make them go somewhere, because the way you get things fixed in Maryland is in Annapolis. If you want a long-term fix and you want it to be changed, you have to get it changed legislatively, and it takes some time. It's not always something that's going to change overnight. Like I said, you got 14 weeks every year. So if you got an idea right now that you want change, you better start working on it now, and you better start knocking on some doors to get it done. But it's rewarding for sure. I at least find it so. So I highly recommend anyone has any interest whatsoever in learning more about it to join those calls. And obviously, feel free to reach out to me directly, DM me on LinkedIn, Google my name. You can find a phone number for me. I'm sure it's on 7 different websites. So if anyone has any questions ever, has anything, just feel free to reach out.
That's awesome. Do something. I wrote that down in all caps with exclamation points. Do something. So, yeah, Nick, thank you for taking time to break all this down. It was very thorough, comprehensive, and can't thank you enough for that. And just for the work that you've done and the team. We keep talking about our team. We have a really robust legislative team, and you've shared, several names. So thanks to everybody for that. And just the work that, we and you do on behalf of our members. And so for everyone that's watching, advocacy only works when our industry stays informed and engaged. As we head towards April 13th, which is Monday, we'll continue to monitor any developments and keep members updated on what comes next. On May 7th, we're going to have a wrap up with two people that you mentioned, our lobbyist Dennis Rasmussen, as well as Rich Green, who's the one of the other co-chairs of our legislative team. So we'll be able to report back on that. And so, be sure to follow MMBBA, for ongoing legislative updates. We actually also forgot to mention the 5th of May, we have our annual conference. And, Nick, I think you've seen this, but Brendan and Bill Kilmer will be on stage talking about much of this as well. And so just lock into that and figure out how you can get there on May 5th to our annual conference. Join us for future discussions on MMBBA Live as we continue these conversations. Nick, thanks again. Thank you. I'm Sean Williams, and thanks for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on MMBBA Live.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.